There is no time of day when there is no crowd at the home of Sheikh Elamin in Omdurman. Food is being served until evening. The Sheikh's brother Ayman Omar personally serves their guests. The majority here are displaced by the war. Some are just neighbors in need of relief. Others come from more distant parts of the city.
Amid the war, people living around the mosque decided to stay, and many came from other districts seeking medical care, water and food. Up to 800 families received 3 meals a day here. Our bakery produces 23,000 loaves of bread per day. We also provide free medication.
Hunger affects no fewer than 30 million people here, according to the UN. Hussam Abdessalam is a musician. He has turned his natural creativity to the task of making food.
Basically, I've switched from an only musical composer to a food composer as well. Just as I used to mix Sudanese indigenous songs and tunes to create a new but original color, I now create highly nutritious dishes by mixing a huge variety of local crops and ingredients.
Hussam says his promatic music has inspired what he calls his promatic dishes, a mixture of proteins and other nutrients. And as he hands out his dishes, he also makes sure to play a tune or two on his violin. Just a couple of weeks ago, we were told no group of people could gather in the streets like this, let alone eat or sing. Hussam tells me he is trying to encourage a return to life and normalcy here and in other parts of Khartoum. In his footsteps, Hussam's daughter, 10-year-old Saba, also plays the violin. As they feed the poor, they are also trying to lift the spirits of the young, a distraction from the realities of violence and deprivation. Mohamed Vall, Jazeera, Khartoum.
Let's talk about this further with Mohamed Gamal Elamin, who's a communication officer at the World Food Programme in Sudan. He joins us from Nairobi. A warm welcome to the programme, Mohamed. So the RSF seized Zamzam refugee camp on April the 11th, sending somewhere between 300,000 and 400,000 people fleeing for their lives. Do we have any idea of the situation in Zamzam camp now that we assume the RSF are in control there?
The situation indeed is terrible, and sadly we had an idea even before those vicious attacks on Zamzam camp. Zamzam camp was already struggling with famine, and now they have to deal with famine and being displaced twice, since even the ones who were residing in Zamzam, so many of them were already fleeing from Al-Fashir. So now they have to resort to Tawila, and Tawila itself was already struggling with food insecurity. The situation is terrible and quietly unimaginable, not only within Darfur, but also across other areas in Sudan.
Now, as well as significant civilian death numbers and a huge number of people forced from Zamzam camp to Tawila, the UN says 12 aid workers have been killed. I mean, how perilous is it for aid organisations to access and operate in areas worst affected?
Absolutely. Access to North Darfur was already a problem, but now with the targeting of the already pre-existing aid workers in this area makes it even more difficult for aid organizations to get food and other humanitarian assistance to those who need it the most. Right now, the UNWFP is already sending its people to accessible areas like Khartoum to reevaluate the situation and try to ramp up its assistance to reach to over 1 million people every month.
You suggest that the deaths of aid workers were deliberate. Are you suggesting they were deliberately targeted?
I don't have enough information on the deliberity of the targeting of the aid workers. However, we must remember that this is not the first time. This is not the first incident. We ourselves, as WFP, we lost our staff due to such attacks. And some of them were in Darfur, while others were in the Blue Nile. So what we need right now is that we need to guarantee the safety of humanitarian and aid workers, as well as guaranteeing safe passages to deliver food to those who need it the most.
When you
People
say,
are dying of hunger.
When you say safe passage and brokering that safe passage, what does that mean? Are you speaking specifically to the RSF? Are there any channels of communications that allows you and other organisations to crisscross front lines here?
We are talking to both parties of the conflict. However, let's also remember that Al-Fashir has been under siege for over a year. There are many people who are struggling to find a meal. Some people now are depending on animal food to sustain a life. And this is not acceptable. We need to deliver assistance to those people. And not only Al-Fashir, there are other areas that are still inaccessible in Kordofan, for example. And we cannot continue working this way. We are very thankful for the government of Sudan for providing access, for example, to Khartoum and to Al Jazeera. However, we need more cooperation from all conflicting parties so that we can save more lives.
Talking about cooperation, I mean, there have been a lot of international donations just this month. Sudan appears to be higher on the agenda of many governments, particularly in Europe. This month, the UK pledged $160 million, the EU $550 million. Are you seeing this money having any effect in real terms?
Thanks to the international community, Sudan is getting some attention right now, despite it being not enough. However, the money is still under the pledged statement, and we need to see this coming into reality. However, I must also say that right now we have food on our hands, but what we need is more pressure on all the conflicting parties so that we can deliver food, meaning that access remains our number one priority.
All right, Mohamed Gamal Elamin, on what is a rapidly worsening situation there for the vast numbers of people, particularly in Darfur and further afield. Many thanks for joining us. Mohamed Gamal Elamin from the World Food Programme.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.